pilgrimage or spiritual tourism. Dr. Beloo Mehra is Senior Academic Mentor at Sri Aurobindo Society. She is also the editor of the Society's monthly online journal, Renaissance. She has a PhD in education from University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, USA, and a master's degree in economics from Delhi School of Economics. She has deep interest in Sri Aurobindo's and the Mother's vision and work on integral education, Indian culture, social cultural evolution, yoga, and spirituality. Her recent book titled Understanding Contemporary India in the Light of Sri Aurobindo was published by Sri Aurobindo Society in April 2022, a copy of which is available there. Thank you, Doctor.
So, I am, I guess, one of the few people in the room, but there are many others like me who are not in tourism industry or from any tourism department, government or otherwise. But I speak here as a traveler, and I share a few stories of my travels with you, which I, in my own way, have tried to do it in a slow and conscious way ever since I have been reading and I have gotten exposure to Sri Aurobindo's way of being, his vision of how to be in the world, how to experience that, or how to open oneself to the experience of love, joy and beauty that Shruti was talking about. So the title that just came to me, Pilgrimage or Spiritual Tourism, ? Because that question mark was important to me because I want to do a little critique of the term spiritual tourism itself. These two terms somehow in my plane of thinking don't necessarily fit together, but I went back to the word that is there in our Indian civilizational experience of Tirth Yatra, pilgrimage. So that's the little comparison that I want to make through these stories that I want to share. Pilgrimage or spiritual tourism. So last month I was invited as a speaker at the national seminar at the Maharaja Sayaji Rao University of Baroda, MSU Baroda. Baroda, of course, as we know, is a special city. The MSU University itself is a special place because that's where the erstwhile Baroda College was, which is associated with Sri Aurobindo at Baroda. Of course, he lived and worked there for 13 years. And he taught in Baroda College, which is now the Faculty of Arts at what is now the MSU at Baroda. So I had the opportunity, this professor called me, and without even a moment of hesitation, I said yes. Because to me, it was not like going to a seminar, it was going on a pilgrimage after a gap of 11 years. Last time I was in Baroda was 11 years ago, 11 or a little more than 11 years ago. So when the seminar was over around 7 p.m. or so, which I'm hinting that this session, our session might also go till 7, but we'll see. I just made a quick call to my husband and I said, work is over, pilgrimage begins. What was that pilgrimage? The pilgrimage was this heritage walk that we were going to take. A few of the faculty from the university and few of the people from the seminar to this building. This is a very old photo of what is now the Faculty of Arts, which was the Baroda College during Sri Aurobindo's time. And this is the grand hall inside, where Sri Aurobindo used to take classes, and the stage that you see, with me also of course standing in one picture and a close-up of the stage. This is the stage where Sri Aurobindo, as a professor of English and French, and then as vice principal, and then later as acting principal, also used to give public addresses. You know, I mean, like he used to give talks to students, university professors, university officials, and things like that. People like that. So this particular building, somebody told me in that heritage walk, is famous for its grand dome and magnificent architecture. I said, wonderful. But for me, what was important was, which comes next. On the first floor of this building is the room tiny little room which was Sri Aurobindo's office and the desk that he used to sit at. This is the table, this is the desk which he touched countless times. There is a little doubt about the chair, but the person that I was with, he is in charge of this particular room, and he said most likely it is still the chair, still that chair, but I'm not 100% sure. But this, to be in this room for maybe half an hour, to be in the ambience, to take in the sacredness of that space, to be able to, I was hesitant initially to touch the table, but then I asked this professor, may I? He said, yeah, of course. That is the pilgrimage experience. You cannot talk about it as spiritual tourism, because the moment you use the word tourism, there is this idea of just going on any journey, going on any tour, spiritual or otherwise. Because we, as Alok Bhai also said, and several others have pointed out throughout the day, we as a people not only have faith or belief in this higher consciousness, higher state of existence, we are also the people who know for sure in some way that this land, every bit of this land has been touched by those countless rishis and yogis and munis and peers and Sufis who have not only sung of that higher state of consciousness, but actually experienced it, realized it in themselves. So how can we say that, it's like just going on any other tour? To go on pilgrimage requires an inner preparation, some of which was so beautifully pointed out by Shruti in her talk on preparing for an inner tour of India. But this idea of pilgrimage or Tirth Yatra is even more specific, because the word Tirth itself means crossing, a place, a ford, something that you cross over to. What is it that you are crossing over to? You will be crossing over to higher realms of consciousness, or trying to experience that for even if, tiny little bit of time, and escape from the ordinary mundaneness of day-to-day life. This is not necessarily religious or spiritual tourism, where you say, yeah, okay, I've come to this place, I've heard there are some magnificent temples there, so let me just, why not, while I do some party and shopping and try nice restaurants and things like that, let me also take in a little bit of religious or religious spiritual tourism. Tirth Yatra comes with that inner preparation. We as a people are Tirth Yatra kind of people, pilgrimage kind of people. We are trying to bring in this new idea of spiritual tourism, but we have to be very sensitive when we go through this thing. So it was this experience of being in this room that really made me feel like that this is the pilgrimage that we are talking about. And of course, for me, this didn't stop with just this. Next morning I had a chance to visit Sri Aurobindo Nivas, which many of you know was the house where Sri Aurobindo lived for 13 years, where his room is there, where he had the experience of silent Brahman, the swing which is decorated beautifully by the devotees every day with fresh flowers. Again, the preparation. For them, getting up in their home in Baroda itself and going to Sri Aurobindo Nivas and decorating the swing, this is a Tirth Yatra. So the definition of Tirth Yatra keeps, that way extending itself. So in the morning, I think Gayatri Panda also mentioned this one scheme, Prasad of Government of India, Ministry of Tourism. And this was, I think, in my research, I found it was started in around 2014-15. The full form of Prasad is Pilgrimage, Rejuvenation and Spiritual Augmentation Drive. It's a little complicated term, but let's go with Prasad. That is more, understandable. I went through the document that the Ministry of Tourism released for this Prasad scheme, and I found it, very comforting when I read things like, pilgrimage tourism. They are using the word pilgrimage because P for Prasad. Pilgrimage tourism continues to be the main motivators for domestic tourism in India still. And the scheme focuses on identifying and developing several pilgrimage sites across India in a prioritized, planned and sustainable manner, to provide a complete religio-spiritual tourism experience. I read that and I said to myself, yeah, quite reasonable. And then when you go on reading the full document, it says that pilgrimage tourism is not same as any other casual tourism. I said, oh great, wonderful. And when developing these sites that they have identified, it is critical to have participation from the local communities at these sites. And then the term that they use, which has also been used during the morning sessions also, is stakeholders. So who are these stakeholders, as we had in our panel discussions also? These are people, the term stakeholders carries a certain objective dimension. These are people who have something at stake. Whether tourism is developed or not developed, is promoted or not promoted. So either their lives or livelihoods or their works, all those things are dependent on that. But there is another stakeholder or another kind of stake here, which is a more subjective, more inner. That kind of like psychological dimension is often not talked about or somewhat ignored or neglected, even in programs like Prasad. So as a traveler, as someone aspiring to be more and more conscious traveler and not just be a tourist, I just wanted to share a few thoughts on that based on what I have observed. So what happens is that when through schemes like Prasad or other government schemes, these identified pilgrimage sites or religious spiritual sites are developed, often the local cultures are ignored. And there was recently controversy about this place called Parasnath or Samed Sikhanji, where 20 of the 24 Jain Tirthankars had attained Nirvana. And quite a number of Jain communities raised protest about when the plan was floated that this place in Jharkhand, this particular Parasnath place, was going to be developed as a hub for ecotourism. Of course, the people who were protesting had all the right, because they were using the arguments that this is a sacred place for them. Because 20 of their key spiritual figures had attained Nirvana. A lot of things happened, petitions, this, that. Good sense prevailed. For now, a stay has been put on all kinds of ecotourism projects to develop that particular place in Jharkhand. But this is just one example out of several. Few years ago, we had another big controversy about Sabarimala temple, where the attempt, using a certain mentalized ideal of what equality means, the local practices of the people, devotees of that particular deity, were completely ignored. And as somebody pointed out, I think it was our Shiv Shankar Babu, who talked about temple as being an abode of the deity. This truth is fundamental to understanding Indian Sanatana Dharma tradition. Because temple is not a place of worship. Temple is not a place of congregation. Temple, as Shiv Shankar Babuji also said, is first and foremost house of that deity. So without whatever rules the house owner has established, if you completely ignore that, naturally there's going to be some kind of protest or unhappiness, to put it mildly. That was another case in Sabarimala temple. So these are just two examples that I wanted to just point out. But this is not just true to temples. This is not just only about temples. As Alokji also said, every bit of this land is sacred, whether it is rivers, mountains, hills. I think Shruti also pointed out, and a few other people said the same thing. We heard this same sentiment in Gayatri's poetry also. So when there is a plan to float the idea of some kind of cruise on whether it is Ganga or Kaveri, the sacredness, the sanctity of place also has to be kept in mind. These are certain important things that often I don't think ministries or tourism departments or tourism industry as a whole keep these in their metrics when they look at how to promote tourism, because their number is, their criteria is the numbers, the footfall. And I understand that I have a background in economics. Numbers were and are still dear to me. But the objective dimension to the experience of being in a place that often gets missed out. And I just want to quickly go through the next one. So from Sri Aurobindo's room to Sri Aurobindo's cave of Tapasya. In this current issue of Renaissance, we recently published a travelogue, which is all about how to consciously experience the place in an inner journey. So this is actually written by one of our own colleagues at Sri Aurobindo Society in Joshimath. He is a professor there, and it's called Pondicherry Yatra, an inner journey. It was published in 2 parts. So he ended that travelogue. It was in Hindi. It is in Hindi. So those of you who cannot read Hindi, I apologize, but if you can, please visit our website and take a look at what he has written, a sample of which we have put up in the exhibition. His poem about what it's like to be at Sri Aurobindo Samadhi, the subjective dimension of pilgrimage, not necessarily spiritual tourism. His poem is about what it feels like to go back home after spending 10 days in Pondicherry, going to Samadhi twice a day. So he has very kindly given us an English translation also, so they are both outside there. But I also want to just quickly end with this part, that when we talk about pilgrimage, or it's not just about worshipping or temples or seeking some kind of religious merit. The true pilgrimage is the inner journey. And that, as Shruti also pointed out, it can happen when you are standing in front of the sea, or standing in front of a mountain, or just sitting quietly while your friends are, singing and partying, all kinds of experiences. Even while listening to some hip-hop songs, sometimes you can have that quietening kind of thing. So that is also an inner journey within. So I just wanted to share as another story based on my experience when I visited the temple that Shruti pointed out. And we did not discuss this before, what we will be speaking about, the Kailash Nath temple, the Kailash cave in Ellora caves. So inspired by that, I wrote a little, I'm not a poet, I write in prose, but it probably felt like that. So I'm just going to quickly flip through this and read what the travelogue came through me as after about, a few months or almost a year, when I reflected back on what it was like to experience that Kailash cave temple. So, the first picture, this is the outside of the cave. Want to know where to begin? Enter the cave. Don't let the passageway be the end. Continue. Trust that you are protected by higher forces. If you must pause to take in the grandeur and beauty of the road unearthed by those before you. Be mindful of others walking their own paths, alone but nearby. Do not be discouraged by the hurdles on the path to the inner chamber. If you find a guide, I am not one of those people who take a tour guide, by the way, yet, but if you do find a guide, let it be someone who sets you free to chart your own path. Be grateful for the little glimpses of beauty and truth along the way. Keep walking, keep walking. Value the details, but don't get lost in them. Feeling a bit lost? Get reacquainted with the path as many times as it takes. Start again. See your old footprints, take their help, or make new. Keep walking. This is the inner journey that I experienced when I went to Kailash temple in Ellora. If you have not been there, please put it on your bucket list and take it as a pilgrimage. Don't go there as a tourist. And I'll end with my third story with just a little video for 10 seconds. I'm not going to tell the story. If anybody is interested, ask me. Because this was my pilgrimage to Goa, a place not often associated with pilgrimage. So I'll just play the video. Let the video tell you. If you can hear the story, great. If you want to know, I'll be happy to share. But this is what it is. So when I just saw this, I was amazed. If I can say it, how great minds think alike. So thank you so much. I just wanted to bring this point of spiritual tourism is one thing, pilgrimage has a totally other dimension. So thank you.